President Trump drawing plenty of media criticism for moving yet again to abolish Obamacare, with journalists arguing and quoting unnamed Republicans as saying that he has no health care plan after 3 failed attempts to repeal and replace the program that he and his party ran against. I spoke earlier from L.A. with Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire, syndicated radio host, and author of the new #1 New York Times bestseller, The Right Side of History: How Reason and Moral Purpose Made the West Great. Ben Shapiro, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
The pundits are nearly unanimous in saying that President Trump, it's bad politics for him to again bring up getting rid of Obamacare. He was riding high after the Mueller report, after 3 failed attempts to get it repealed through the Republican Congress. Are the pundits wrong?
No, I actually don't think they are. I think that the president suggesting that there's a plan in the wings is obviously not the case. I've spoken to legislators in the Senate, in the House. There's no plan that is forthcoming. The only thing that might be true here is that President Trump is planning essentially for the Supreme Court to uphold its former statements on Obamacare, uphold Obamacare, and then he can blame the Democrats in Congress for blocking any sort of reform of Obamacare, make them own the status quo, as well as the possibility of Medicare for all. That could be a clever political strategy.
Right, but he is, of course, backing a lawsuit that would get rid of Obamacare, pre-existing conditions at all, without any plan in place, as you just noted.
Right, and that again, may be his lawyers betting that the Supreme Court, which still has the same constituency, John Roberts in the swing vote position, will vote the same way that it did before, and then Trump can say, listen, I did the best that I could to get rid of Obamacare. I even sided with a lawsuit to get rid of Obamacare, and the Supreme Court wouldn't let me do it. That's actually not a terrible argument to the base.
All right, blame it on John Roberts. In a review of your book, The Economist called you the pop idol to the alt-right, catering to hyperventilating conservatives. The other day, the British magazine retracted that description and apologized. What happened?
Well, I mean, I think there are a lot of people who don't actually know what the alt-right is. I'll attribute to arrogance rather than malice and ignorance. A bunch of folks on the left seem to think that everybody who is conservative is quote-unquote alt-right. The alt-right actually has an ideology. It is a white supremacist ideology that suggests that Western civilization is predicated not on eternal, immutable principles, but is based solely on race. And Western civilization is just about white people. Oddly enough, there are folks on the left who seem to think the same thing, but the alt-right believes that what makes Western civilization great is that it is a civilization about white people. That obviously is false. It is also stupid. I've been a longtime critic of the alt-right. I was the #1 recipient of their hate in 2016. I still have to hire security thanks to hatred from the alt-right. So the Economist labeling me some sort of pop icon of the alt-right was obviously wrong on its face, and that's why the Economist did the right thing, pulled down the headline. They then called me a radical conservative, which is strange because I don't know what would make me particularly radical. Are there any non-radical conservatives in the opinion of The Economist? But I guess I'm a radical conservative I can take. Alt-right was not a thing that I was going to allow to stand.
Yeah, you did push back, and you got the apology. From your book, you say, we are angry at each other. The anger is palpable. Where did it come from? So my question is, you're an aggressive player in the partisan wars. Does cable news, do the media contribute to and fuel this anger?
I mean, I do think that obviously strong political conversation is going to lead to polarization. But the question is that you can have strong political conversations where you disagree and you discuss and still love the person you're arguing with at the end of the day if you feel that you have the same shared goals, if you feel that you have the same common base from which you are working. What seems to have happened is that the sort of polarized battle we're seeing on cable news, I think, is a reflection of a deeper underlying unease with the fact that we don't have all that much in common anymore. The book really is an attempt to remind us that we have a lot in common. We have a 3,000-year developmental history in Western civilization, and that right, left, and center, we all still should agree on certain basic principles: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, a government that is not empowered to invade our lives. These are concepts that we should all agree on. If we can't agree on those, then the arguments that we're having right now actually carry an enormous amount of weight, and maybe we should be angry.
So you see yourself as sort of slamming other people's policy ideas or views of ideology and civilization, but not demonizing them. Is that the distinction here?
Absolutely. I mean, I hope that I don't always succeed, but I certainly hope that I'm attacking people's ideas and not them as human beings, or suggesting that they lack moral fiber, moral character because we disagree on tax rates.
Right. Now, when you went to speak at Berkeley, famously, protesters showed up. They shouted, "Speech is violence," which is an interesting twist of meaning. You also say that despite the fact that you're an Orthodox Jew, you're routinely castigated as a Nazi. Where does that come from? And just personally, how hurtful is that to you?
Well, I mean, obviously, on a personal level, it is deeply It is deeply discomforting. It is not a nice thing to be labeled a progenitor of the worst mass murder in history against people who shared a religion with me. That's obviously ridiculous and silly and evil, frankly. But the general, the general polarization. We live in an era where it is very convenient to tear down your political opposition by labeling them morally insufficient, that they have a lack of character. And that is a sign not only of bad politics, but bad underlying motivation. If you're slandering somebody's motivations without knowing the person, knowing their motivations, if the idea is that they are innately bad because we disagree on political matters that we've disagreed on for years and years and years, but that my politics reflect white supremacy because we disagree on affirmative action, for example, then you're not engaging in politics. You're engaging in effectively character assassination and a certain form of tribal warfare.
And there's way too much of that in the online sewer that some social media channels have become. I would agree with that. Ben Shapiro, congratulations on the book. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.